Hey guys, welcome to another OJay Health Radio. Now, I'm actually really excited about this guest here. It's a guy that I just know this topic that we're going to jam on a hell of a lot, and there's going to be a lot of synergy here. We have a guy called Devin Burke, who is an expert, one of the world's leading experts on sleep and why you're not able to get to sleep, why you're not able to stay asleep, and basically making sure that you're getting the most out of the time you spend in the bedroom. He's an international speaker, TEDx speaker, and author of bestselling author of The Sleep Advantage, founder of the Sleep Science Academy, and one of the top health and sleep coaches in the world. Books, keynotes, and videos have inspired thousands of people to improve their sleep, energy, and life. And the mission that Devin has said that he has is to give 40 million people who suffer from poor sleep the tools and support needed to stop the suffering and start sleeping as quickly as possible. So, Devin, thank you for joining me on the show today.
I'm excited to talk sleep with you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Just let's tell the people, like the listeners, how you got into this, because I read your about side of things and traveling to Europe and stuff like that. Tell us how you got into the sleep side of things and why this is your gift to help people.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've studied a lot of different things under the holistic wellness umbrella. And I was gonna in college to be a physical therapist. And, I did this backpack trip through Europe, had some time to reflect, realized, hey, that's not really what I'm passionate about, which sent me on this journey to study what that was. And through that journey and that process, I studied a lot of different things, and I got to a place where I was helping high-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are running companies and families to manage their health while managing their business and life. And as I'm sure you're aware, a lot of people in that situation have issues with their sleep. And up until that point, I knew nothing about sleep. Honestly, I thought it was a waste of time. I'm a great sleeper. So much so my family used to call me narco as a sort of a joke, as for short for narcoleptic. And anyway, so the more I looked into sleep, the more I realized there's not a lot of good solutions. It's a huge, massive problem for people, and it's the foundation of health.
Yep.
And so that really piqued my interest. And so I sent me again on a little journey to study sleep science and really what really is necessary for allowing the body to sleep, which is really important. That key word is allowing the body. And then I was able to help one person with their sleep issues. And then I said, well, if I can help one person, I can help, the 40 million people that have massive sleep issues. And that's really what set me on my journey here to help people sleep.
So how long ago was that?
That was about 6 years ago.
Okay. And how close do you think you are to that 40 million people right now?
I would say I'm about 39 short. So yeah, I mean, again, depending on how you look at it, we've had, hundreds of people through our programs and videos, thousands of people watch the videos and keynotes and things like that. But so I got a lot of work ahead of me.
It's probably more than that. If you think about like the snowball effect of it, it's the way I look at it with the work that all of us do, right? And getting onto podcasts is pretty powerful. But what do you define as a good night's sleep?
So here's the thing. Everyone has their own definition of what a good night's sleep is. An easy way to define it is, do you wake up feeling energized, refreshed, and clear-minded? If you wake up and you feel foggy, you feel tired, if you feel groggy, chances are you probably didn't get enough sleep or enough quality sleep. Delta deep sleep or REM sleep. So, but everyone really is a bit different. Sleep architecture is unique to every individual. And, the easy gauge though, is do you wake up and feel refreshed? And do you have sustained energy throughout your day to accomplish what you set out to accomplish?
Oh, that's a powerful thing. And I find one of the things I see the most with people when it comes to sleep is the waking up through the night. And people say like waking up to go to the toilet, oh, I'm just getting older or something like that. And one thing I always say is that just because something is common doesn't make it normal. Is that what you see the most when it comes to sleep, or is it people getting to sleep wired and tired, that sort of thing? What is the most common thing that you see as another practitioner?
So it's really 50-50. I would say 50% of people have issues falling asleep, and 50% of people have issues staying asleep. And there's actually, so you can call that onset insomnia or maintenance insomnia. And so really some people have both. They have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. But there's different types of, severity within those kind of chronic insomniacs realm. And it goes usually from people have some issues for a couple of nights, then it becomes a couple of weeks, then it becomes a couple of months. And the people we deal with at Sleep Science Academy, it's a couple of years and a couple of decades that have this pattern of not being able to fall asleep or stay asleep. And it really starts to impact their life. So once in a while, it's normal to have issues with sleep. Like people have this idea like, oh, every night is if every night it's not a great night, or every morning I don't wake up feeling refreshed, something's wrong. It's not the case. I have nights where I don't sleep well. It's normal. But if you're consistently having those issues, then there's definitely something that you need to look at.
I think it's whether you can link those nights to something, right? If you start having regular ones and you can't think, oh, I actually had a bit more of an adrenaline rush because I spoke last night, or I'm a little bit jet lagged, or I had some coffee late, those sorts of things. So do you find the psychological aspect one of the hardest to overcome when someone's not slept right for 20 years or a long while?
Yeah, 100%. Everyone has what I call a sleep story.
Okay.
Right. So they and a lot of people have their story is pretty bad. They tell themselves like, oh, it's genetic. My mom or my brother or whoever didn't sleep well, so it's a genetic thing, or they believe that they're a poor sleeper, or they don't need enough sleep. Like they think, oh, I can get away with. So people have these stories that they tell themselves, and then that becomes obviously a self-fulfilling, reality. And so some people have a story that they sleep great. Some people just don't even, really think about sleep too much. But we all have a story about sleep, and the story you tell yourself affects a lot around your sleep quality and how well you do it. So it's interesting. Most of the people that, you hear people complaining about sleep, it's, I didn't get enough sleep, or I sleep terrible. It's really common. It's a massive issue, but that becomes, people tell themselves these stories that keep them stuck. And they unfortunately, they go for solutions that are Band-Aid solutions like sleeping pills, which are toxic and addictive, and actually, don't really address the underlying root causes.
Yeah. It's like alcohol to knock you out. Right. And you don't get the restorative levels of sleep as a result.
Exactly.
So many people are doing it. So what would you say the biggest mistakes are when people actually are coming to fix their sleep?
So one big mistake people make is they think that it's something they actually can control. You can't force or control sleep. Sleep happens. Like, just like your heart beats, you don't have to think about that. Your nails grow, your hair, you don't have to think about sleep. And actually, the more you think about it, the worse you sleep. So not to say that there's not things that you can do in your day and also in your night that would help your relationship to sleep and help you create that chance for sleep to happen. But you cannot force or control sleep. That's a huge thing that people just don't seem to understand. And when they try to they're trying to force or will sleep to happen, that's when people have more sleep issues. It's really interesting.
I suppose you can control your routine to set yourself up for success with sleep. So like getting those two separate, but when you've done your routine completely wrong and you're trying to just say, look, brain, switch off, it's just a big issue. So would you say that's like the biggest psychological thing going on, that they're just not setting themselves up right for it? Or what are the psychological impacts?
Yeah, there's a real important distinction. You don't do things so that you sleep. You do things to create the opportunity for sleep to happen.
Okay.
Really important distinction. And that actually, the reason is, if you're doing things so that you sleep, there's a presupposition. You're presupposing that this thing that you're doing is going to then result in sleep. And that creates this anticipation, this sort of anxiety, performance anxiety, even sometimes just enough to send cortisol or adrenaline or noradrenaline through your body, which then keeps sleep from happening. So not to say that there's not a place for sleep hygiene, not to say that there's not a place for, doing things to improve your sleep, but that little distinction in how you think about it, actually, I found after working with hundreds of people that have the worst sleep issues you can imagine, makes a massive difference.
So how do you start switching that psychological?
So notice when you're doing things with the belief that you're doing them so that you're going to sleep, and instead just do them to do them.
Okay. So what sort of things?
Yeah. So, a nighttime routine. So this is super basic, right? Making sure that you're not bringing your day into your night, like having space. I teach this thing called 3-2-1 sleep. It's 3 hours before bed, no food, 2 hours before bed, no work, and then 1 hour before bed, no electronics. And that's when you would start a routine. And again, you're not doing this so that you can sleep or even improve your sleep. You're just doing it because it's going to create the opportunity for sleep to happen.
Okay. And are you doing anything like, so with screen time and stuff like that, are you doing anything before then? Like, do you get people to wear blue light blockers or anything like that? What are your thoughts on this? Like, let's touch on some of like the typical biohacks as such that we see with people. And I know we just quickly touched on this, but
the big ones, obviously, it's light, it's technology, and it's more so the hyper arousal that comes from the technology, not so much the blue light. Although I think there is science around wearing blue light blocking glasses, and blue light does affect melatonin production for sure. The caffeine and alcohol is a huge one.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that caffeine blocks adenosine. That's what builds up the sleep pressure. So having that too late is obviously a big issue for people because the half-life is 6 hours. So it's in your system for 12. And then alcohol obviously disturbs it's a diuretic. So it dehydrates you, increases your body temperature. So most people might put you to sleep, but then of course you're going to wake up and then probably have a hard time getting back to sleep. So those are like the low-hanging fruit when it comes to sleep hygiene. And honestly, if most people just were more mindful about how they use caffeine, when they used alcohol, the type of alcohol that they use, it would do a massive difference on their quality of sleep.
So what would you say? I don't drink, so I don't like the taste of alcohol. And some people say, oh, that's actually a blessing. Like, well, I would probably drink if I did like the taste of it. I just don't like the taste of it. But what would you say to people if they were to drink? What is a better alcohol to have when you say about type of alcohol?
Yeah. So first and foremost, the quality of the alcohol is super important. So whatever you like, whether it's red wine or whether it's tequila or vodka or whatever it is, get the highest, cleanest alcohol that you can find of whatever that is that you like to drink. Now, obviously, there are certain alcohols that are better than others, right? Mm-hmm. But it really also depends on how your body metabolizes alcohol.
Yep.
But the main thing is the timing and the quality of the alcohol. So if you're going to drink the best bourbon that you can find. If you're going to drink red wine, get the best red wine that you can afford and find. That's biodynamic, that's organic, that's low in sugar. And then make sure that you're not drinking too close to bedtime so that it doesn't affect the body temperature.
I suppose, obviously, danger is in the dose as well. Like how much that and the mixer as well. Like if they've got a sugary mixer.
For sure. And that really depends. It's interesting. If you're having a higher quality alcohol, you might be able to actually get away with having a little bit more than having a lower quality alcohol because it's cleaner. Your body can process it. It's not so toxic, even though alcohol is a toxin.
So one thing, like there's a psychology of the alcohol side of things. And I find if people realize why they're drinking and like this Friday night, we're going to celebrate the week. And then we look at your circadian rhythm and like, we're going to go to bed later on a Friday. And then people are essentially socially jet lagged by the time they get to Monday. But one thing that I work on with people as well is not just the evening routine, but the morning routine.
Yeah.
What big mistakes do you see people making in the way they wake up that then stops them from sleeping? Because I think people don't always put two and two together to think that morning stops them from sleeping.
Yeah, a great night of sleep starts as soon as you wake up.
So what sets it up?
Yeah, so we lose a liter of water throughout the night through sweat and respiration.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having good sex, maybe even more than that, which is good for sleep, by the way.
Yeah.
So you first and foremost, you need to hydrate. And most people do the opposite of hydrate, which is they use caffeine, which you're already your cortisol is highest in the morning. So it's like dumping gasoline on an already lit fire. So easy thing that everyone could do is just make sure that you drink a big glass of water and wait an hour, at least an hour before you have any type of caffeine. Because now your cortisol is going to come down a little bit, and then you can, at that point, it's going to be less of an impact on your adrenal glands.
And what are your thoughts with that as well? Because so I put, there was something I put on social media about if you want to see how burnt out your body is, try not having caffeine for 7 days. And then like one of my mates was like, yeah, I wanted to slap you when you said that. That is such like a societal norm that caffeine is just needed. And like caffeine and alcohol are two of the biggest drugs that you have to justify not taking, it seems.
That's it.
How do you get past the psychology with someone to not need that caffeine in the morning? How do you work with that?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't actually see it as a problem, to be honest. Like if someone has one cup of coffee because they enjoy the taste and it gives them a little boost, if you're relying on that caffeine, like if you can't function, then it's like, hey, there needs to be some massive changes. Like what's going on in your sleep quality first and foremost that has you feel so exhausted that you need to rely on something that's really like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah,
because it's not, it's artificial energy. So really that's when we would say, well, if you feel like you need to have a coffee to get through your day, then you really need to look at, well, what's going on that has you so fatigued and exhausted? Where are you not resting? Where are you not honoring rest? Is it mentally? Is it emotionally? Is it spiritually? Are you not prioritizing things that bring you joy? Like where is that thing that's draining your energy that then has you rely on coffee? And as soon as most people know right away when you ask them that question, they're like, yeah, it's this. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, somebody wanting to actually make the change.
Yeah, it's probably a similar thing with alcohol, right? Like
Same exact.
Realize why.
100%.
And again, like alcohol is one of the things I always say to people that when they say I can't cut it out, is it you can't cut it out or you won't cut it out, because they're two different things.
Yeah, everyone's on a different scale of readiness to change, but until something becomes painful enough, people just don't change. Unfortunately, it's like in my experience, something has to be really painful, or somebody has to really be connected to the cost of what they're doing is. And it becomes a little bit challenging because things become so subjective. Like your low level of energy and emotional numbness becomes your norm, right? Your poor sleep, your fatigue, that becomes normal. Yeah. And then it also becomes normal to the people around you. So it's like, until you experience something different, you just don't know different. And that's where it becomes a bit challenging. That's very much the case with sleep quality specifically.
It's people don't know how bad they feel until they feel good, right? It's that contrast. They have to feel bad to know what feel good is like, but are they really going to feel any, especially if someone's been going through this for like 10, 15, 20 years, they forget what normal or good feels like.
Exactly. And that's
then
where
it makes it powerful, right?
Yeah. And that's the challenging thing, is to kind of, people have to be shooken up in order to like reconnect to what they could feel like if they were getting great sleep, if they were making good, nutritional choices and lifestyle choices. And oftentimes it takes a lot of pain for them people to, in my experience, for people to wake up.
So what are you seeing then? Like, yes, there's the pain and stuff, but what are the physical signs that we're seeing? Like, do you do blood panels? Do you do any functional testing? Like, what are you seeing that lets you know someone is not getting adequate sleep, apart from like they're saying their energy is bad?
Yeah. So we obviously we can't manage what we don't measure. We use the Oura Ring, to measure, at Sleep Science Academy. So that gives us a really good baseline as to quality of sleep. It's actually gotten a lot better, the data. So first and foremost, we look at the sleep architecture primarily. Then after that, the way that we work with our clients is first we look at the psychology, then we look at the physiology, then we look at the environment in that order. And it's really important to go in that order. Most people go in the reverse order. They look at their environment, then they'll look at the physiology, and then lastly, they might address the psychology. In my experience, it needs to be the other way around.
Okay.
So we need to look at, well, what is the thoughts and the beliefs and the stories, your sleep story? What are the things that you're telling yourself? The self-chosen stressors, the patterns that you have, the psychological patterns that you have that are creating stress. Let's deal with all that. Then we'll start to move into the physiological aspects of, okay, how's your blood work look? How's your adrenal glands functioning? We don't really get into too much depth of that. We usually refer people out to like functional doctors to do that, but we will look at that but what I found was that most people, when you get your mind right, your body follows. Like so when people kind of understand their psychology, their body sort of begins to, when they can get out of that that sympathetic sort of state, and they can learn to shift back into the parasympathetic, the body just starts to know what to do. It starts to heal. And it takes time, but that's in my experience what I've seen. And then we'll address the last piece is like the environment. That's really for quality of sleep. Looking at all the sleep hygiene, all the things, that's really for the quality of sleep, but getting the amount of sleep, really looking at the psychology and the physiology, that's really where you want to focus if you're not getting enough sleep.
Okay. Question with regard to the Aura Ring, because you're going to have looked at thousands. I've looked at like hundreds of people's scores on there, but you're going to 10x that.
Yes.
Do you find a difference in the readings when they sleep in the same bed as their partners in the sleep scores? Because I absolutely do.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
On a sofa or in a spare room. Like, it's not good for relationships, but
so yeah, I mean, there's this thing called like a sleep divorce. And it's becoming more common, and in other countries, it's actually it can be a social norm where people sleep in two different beds, but they're just pushed together.
Yeah.
Or actually, they'll start in a bed, and then someone will go into another room or another area of the room. Because if your partner's snoring and they're rolling around and they're overheating and they're like, it's like, that's going to affect your sleep. So obviously every relationship's different, and there are some things that you can do to mitigate that, like having a really good quality mattress that doesn't hold in heat, making sure that you have, you're doing things. If your partner snores, making sure that they take care of that. So there are things that you can do, I would say, to improve that if that is a factor, but for sure it is a factor for a lot of people.
I've found that I'll still wake feeling refreshed, but my sleep score will be, it's just saying you've moved too much. Like I feel refreshed, but then my wife is not sleeping as well, that sort of thing. Or if she's had something like had some extra sugar and stuff like that, and then I'm like, how does this impact my sleep score? Like just moving about. So on that note, actually, I put a post out a couple of days ago asking about mattresses because we're looking to switch one. So I'm going to ask a question. What mattress do you potentially recommend? I suppose there's so many of them, but I'm now getting bombarded with 50 different Black Friday deals, and I'm even more confused as to like, should get that one or that one. Are there any you've shown that will, because some of them claim that they're going to like minimize partners' movements, and some, like, what ones aren't going to let you overheat?
So it really, when it comes to mattresses, there's a ton of good ones and there's just as many bad ones. So it really comes down to, number one, what do you want to spend and what's important to you? So I personally sleep on a Prana Dharma, and it's a latex-based mattress. It's actually a 300-pound mattress, and it has a wool top, and it's temperature regulating, and it's infused with copper, and so it's a high-end mattress. It's an amazing mattress, and the reason I love it is not only for so many reasons. One, it's temperature regulating. Two, the latex, you can move around and you don't feel it as much. and then it has it's infused with copper for antimicrobial and just keeping all the nastiness, keeping it clean. Because people don't realize your mattress gains like 20 pounds every year just with your sweat and skin cells.
Kind of gross when you think of that.
Very gross.
Yeah.
So that's what I personally sleep on. But I've slept on a lot of great mattresses. There's a lot of them out there. If some people are like, well, they're concerned about off-gassing, want more like natural materials. There's a great company called Essentia. Yeah. So they make it's like a natural, it's kind of like a memory foam, but it doesn't off-gas and it doesn't sleep hot.
Okay.
So they make a great mattress. And then there's different styles of mattresses. There's like hybrid mattresses, which is a mix of spring and foam. There's new materials like the purple mattress. So it can become very difficult choosing a mattress. So what I always tell people, and I tell my clients, I say go to a store and just start to get on them.
Just test.
Start to get clear on what's important to you. Like, is having a natural mattress important to you? Okay, then that kind of puts you in a certain category. What's your price range? That puts you then in a certain category. And then just get on the mattresses and to see which one feels the best. Is a temperature regulating mattress important to you? So like, if you know what's important to you, then you'll know kind of where to kind of start. If you're not clear on that, then it's going to be super overwhelming.
That makes total sense. I appreciate that. Now, lastly, I know we've spoken about the psychology, which is the biggest part. Then we go into physiology and the environment. Are there any supplements that you feel people benefit from? It's going to depend on person to person. Like, we know that, and we want to get that completely clear. So this isn't like a blanket recommend for everyone. Are there any things that you see as good for people, or that people are taking that pretty certainly they shouldn't, apart from the sleeping pills that we've touched on?
Yeah, I would say, obviously get your blood work done and know what's going on for everyone. Most people are deficient in vitamin D and magnesium. That's like blanket. Like I would say most people listening to this, unless they've had a blood test and maybe they're working with you, that would be a good baseline. And then there's actually a whole chapter in the Sleep Advantage on sleep supplementation, depending on what your issue is, because there's so many different, if you have trouble getting to sleep, if you have trouble staying asleep, there's different things that would probably, are you not sleeping because you're in pain? Like, so depending on what your situation is, then it's kind of looking at, okay, what might be right for this person? Is it, GABA? Is it maybe some CBD? Is it, I'm not a big fan of melatonin.
You're not.
I'm not.
No, that's what I wanted to hear, actually.
Yeah. So so the thing is, they've done a meta-analysis on melatonin and sleep, and it didn't show that it made a significant difference.
Yeah.
And then also, it's a hormone. So I think it's a great antioxidant. I think you can use melatonin as an antioxidant, but as a sleep aid, you got to be careful. It's a hormone.
Yeah. And
right?
you're putting exogenous hormones into your body.
Exactly.
Yeah. How is that going to impact?
We don't know. And there's studies that kind of show it doesn't impact, it's not harmful. There's studies that show that it potentially could be harmful. So, when in doubt, leave it out. So just go with something else that would be more, a bit safer and actually shows to be more effective, cool. Right? For your specific situation.
You said CBD there. Is that something, did you say you do recommend that or not?
Yeah, if you, again, with any type of supplementation recommendations, obviously check with your doctor and all that, of course. But you want to, it comes down to quality, the quality of so if you're getting a high quality, CBD from a reputable company, that can be helpful. That can be helpful for people, especially people that are in pain. And pain obviously creates issues with sleep. So if you have a lot of pain in your body for whatever reason, you want to definitely deal with that pain, but CBD can be helpful. THC, it's more in the category of alcohol. It disturbs REM sleep. So a little bit of THC with CBD can help, because it helps sort of buffer and sort of help that the plant sort of work the way it's meant to, but too much THC Not good.
Do you see links? Because I've read a couple of studies recently talking about long-term CBD, and I wasn't sure on the levels of THC with that. Being used for anxiety actually increases anxiety or not?
Yeah. So I think with any study, the thing that the studies miss out on is the quality. So like if you have a poor quality product, it's going to do a completely different thing in your body than if you have a high quality product, just like alcohol. So I think it's really important to be careful when we read a study to like make any assumptions, because we don't know what quality they're using. Is it real? Is it so at the end of the day, I think you got to self-experiment. You got to see, it's hard to know. It's hard to know.
Exactly. That makes sense. So just tell the listeners, because you've got the Sleep Science Academy. What is the Sleep Science Academy?
Yeah. So Sleep Science Academy is a holistic approach based in science that helps people with chronic, what we call psychophysiological insomnia, which is learned insomnia. So people that have issues getting or staying asleep, that are on some type of sleeping medication, usually, that have tried all the things and nothing seems to work. Oftentimes we're able to helping them through those 3 phases of addressing the psychology of sleep, the physiology, and the environment. And it's an 8-week program with coaching, one-on-one coaching and group coaching. I don't do the one-on-one coaching anymore. I have a team, but
Nice.
But yeah, we have a 97% success rate for people that complete our program. And again, what we do is really for people that their sleep or lack of sleep is drastically impacting their life. It's like we get the sort of the worst of the worst. People at the end of the rope, not really people that are like looking to optimize their sleep. It's more so like it's having a massive impact in their life.
I would like ask some of the people that are look to optimize their sleep, actually they have a bigger impact or bigger problem than they actually realize sometimes, like looking to scratch the surface when they need to actually go deeper.
I'm so happy that you said that. Yeah, I agree with you. And sometimes it's people are afraid to ask for help or like be honest with their issue, because it's like, oh, if I'm honest with myself, then it becomes real. But it is real for a lot of people, but people just are not honest with themselves, unfortunately, all the time.
I would suggest that's one of the biggest things stopping people getting results, as you say. So I massively appreciate you sharing the information here. You've got your book, The Sleep Advantage. There's the Sleep Science Academy. Where can people find that and also find you on social media?
So it's Devin Burke Wellness on all the social channels, and then Amazon, Sleep Advantage. It's also on Audible if you want to listen to it, and sleepscienceacademy.com.
Cool. I'll put all the details in the show notes, but it's been awesome to chat with you about this. And it's a topic, as you know, is close to my heart as it is close to your heart. So it's good for my listeners, your listeners, to hear some different views that actually say pretty similar things. So I appreciate you taking your time to share this, Devin.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
No worries. Take care.